Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your moles will practically build themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. Today I'm going to start building one of my favorite cars ever. But I have to kit bash and scratch build the heck out of this thing. Fortunately, I've had some good luck and I found some of the parts I needed, got them resin cast. So here's what we're going to do. Got it in this little box here that had, I don't know what I got in this, but anyway, I've marked it 68 Cougar. And what it is, so you know what I'm building now. What I'm going to do is I have got this funny car body that I got a few years ago. It's like the STP or Kenson Leslie or one of those Cougars. Anyway, I am going to take this. I'm going to take this body. I'm going to modify it just a little bit. It didn't come with any of the marker lights on it. Okay, these are decals that I got. But it does come with this really neat roof hatch that I got to seal that. Anyway, this funny car body I am going to turn into a pretty decent replica of a 1968 Cougar. At least I'm going to try. So I need an interior. Fortunately, a while back I got a built 1967 Cougar and I tore it apart and I made a bunch of resin casts or resin molds, RTV molds, if you will. Here is my interior mold, and I made an interior tub. This is for a 67, so it's going to work for the 68, but this one's a little bit warped. I need to have some warm water and get this back into shape. Also, the dashboard comes from that kit. I made a resin mold of that. And this is what we're going to use for the interior. As far as the chassis goes, I'm going to use the chassis from a 1969 Cougar kit. You can see it's still got this parts here that says remove. So that's what we're going to use. The seats, since they're different than the 67, and the ones in the 67 kit, yeah, the pattern's good, but other than that, they don't look all that good. But look at these 68 seats I've got. These are nice. These are out of a Mustang kit, a 68 Mustang kit. And these are going to work really nice for my 68 Cougar seats, my stock seats. So, without further ado, I'm going to get going on this, and let's see what we turn out with, huh? Well, I've vacillated over which version of the 68 Cougar I wanted to build, because, well, as you can see, and if you have seen my video on my personal Cougars that I've owned over the years, you'll know that the very first one I had was this 68 right here, and you can see it's kind of different paint jobs that it had as I was trying to learn how to paint and use a spray can. But by my senior year in high school, I finally got a real paint job. This was painted a 1969 Chevy Le Mans blue. It was a beautiful color. And I had them custom mix it with a little bit of extra metallic in it so that it was really kind of a unique color. I had it sprayed by a friend of mine, so it was done, and it was done right, and here it is in all its beauty back in the day. The engine in the car, this is what the compartment looked like for most of the time I had it, was a 302. I had put some headers on it, a high-rise Torker manifold, and it always had a Holley carb on it. So this is kind of the under the hood, how it looked on this particular car. So this is what I'm going to try to replicate, is this particular Cougar. So as I said earlier, I grabbed one of these funny car bodies that I had. This one, yeah, it was okay, but I really just didn't need it anymore in my collection. So I went ahead and took this one that I had built some time ago. I wasn't happy with the decals on it. Nobody really knew who Mike Reynolds was anyway. So anyway, I took off the decals, got most of the
the markings off of this particular one. And this is what I'm going to start with. So I had to take the roof hatch, glue it shut, and then get some putty and started puttying this area and then sanding this area, trying to get it smooth. It took about 4 different times to putty, sand, putty, sand. You can see here, this is one of the times, and there's still a little bit of area there that's a little bit low. But eventually I got it so that it was pretty good. And I'm going to put a vinyl top on this anyway, so I'm not too worried about the scratches at this point. So if you want to know how to do the vinyl top, we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. One of the major things that was a problem with this particular kit was, well, I had to have an opening hood. So I cut the hood out and I cut the valence, that part behind the hood off, because you can see the funny car didn't have the little vents, and the Cougar itself, well, I had to take one out of a 69 kit and it wasn't quite correct, but I'm going to make some corrections to it, don't worry. Anyway, so for the hood, I had this, it was like a 3-inch Mopar. They called them Mopar hood scoops back in the day. I don't know why, but this Pro Stock type scoop, I had a 3-inch one that I built and made it a little bit taller to make it the 5-inch, which is what my car had. So it came in like 3-inch, 5-inch, 7-inch height, and I had the 5-inch. So anyway, I put that on my hood, marked out the area, got it glued down, cut the opening out, super glued where I needed to, made sure that this thing was glued tight so it wasn't going to come up, and then went ahead and puttied and sanded, puttied and sanded, puttied and sanded until I got this hood the way that I wanted it and ready for paint. So I mentioned about the vinyl top. I have a couple of videos I've already put up, and I'll put a link here on this video for that, on how to build, how I do my vinyl tops. And you can see I've got the plastic parts in. I've gone ahead and painted the paint that simulates the rough part of the vinyl top. And here is that valence. It looks great, but it's not correct. So I'm going to have to make some corrections there before I finish all of that up. So here is the vinyl top once built and put into place. Again, it's just paint over. It's kind of a special texture paint that I tape this body off and go ahead and spray it. And then once that's dry, sprayed this with a white primer just to kind of get it so that I could work with the body. So after that was complete, I did have to do some sanding on it to get a couple of little rough areas, some areas that I wasn't quite happy with, and the overlap parts I thought were a little bit high, so I had to sand those down. No worries, just took care of the sanding on this thing and went ahead and resprayed it, and I think it turned out okay. So you can see here, the vinyl top's pretty much complete. Is it perfect for a 68 Cougar? No, but I think it will work for the purposes that I'm doing. I'm happy with it. The one thing I did have to do, though, is I did have to add a lip, some Aught 10 plastic around the window, around the driver's and passenger window. And I also had to build this area where the wing window is, because the funny car kit didn't have the wing window, nor did it have that, it's called a drip rail, that is around the side of the vinyl top there. So here you can see the drip rail's been installed and things have been repainted, and it turned out really good, I think. The wing window area I just built up with some like Aught 20 or Aught 30 styrene, and then I used a half round piece, or maybe I stole this out of the 69 kit, I can't remember. Anyway, for the rest of the wing window, but at least I've got a decent wing window now in the car. So now for one of the most difficult parts, but also one of the most important. You see the funny car model has these raised or radius fender wells, and they aren't correct for an actual passenger car. So the 67 kit that I have, which is resin, I went ahead and marked where that's supposed to be. And then you can see here on this piece of plastic that, yeah, I've got a ways to fill in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some strips of 20 styrene and just build them up inside of that fender well. Unfortunately, I don't have any real good pictures of me doing this. Um, don't, don't know if I did take them or lost them or whatever, but anyway, I built this up to a point, and you can see here how thick I had to put on those layers of styrene. And then, of course, trim them a little bit and put some putty in so that everything was, semi-smooth. Now I'm going to have to sand this, and then hopefully I get it to the right shape that I want. That's why I made that little template. Here we are on the other side, doing the other side, and I can see it looks just a little bit different, but I think it's going to turn out okay. Um, it does take some sanding and building up a putty and maybe adding a little piece of plastic here or there, but I want it to be good and solid and nothing that's going to crack. So here it is, just about finished. And I think it's going to turn out just fine, except now that whole lip, that whole area that kind of sticks out there is way too thick, way too wide, I should say, for a 67, 68 Cougar. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to cut that back. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm probably going to have to get out a Dremel tool and grind that. You can see here on the other side how much I had to build up from the original kit just to get where I needed to be on this. So once I was happy with how that lip was as far as its orientation to the tire and wheel, then I needed to look at the other kit that I had, and what I need to do is mark with this red marker where the that raised area should actually be. And that gives you some idea how much I'm going to have to remove. You see, I'm going to have to be really careful. I went ahead and put a grinding bit in my Dremel tool. I've lost the video. I don't know where it is, so you'll just kind of have to imagine this. And I grind this area down till I get to the red. If I go too far, I can fill it in with putty, which I had to do in a couple of spots, and I'd fill it in, sand it, get it to the shape I wanted. You know what? I'm used to doing that on these real Cougars because of all the rust repair that I had to do on them. And, it turned out fine. So we're almost ready to paint. I shoot it with a gray primer, and for the paint, well, I'm not going to go out and buy me some Chevy Le Mans blue. I could, but as we all know, I'm a tightwad, and there is a couple of colors that are really close in the modeling world. The old testers, which very hard to get anymore because they've gone out of business, but the Olds engine blue is almost spot on for Chevy Le Mans blue. So loaded up in the airbrush with some of my lacquer thinner, went ahead and sprayed the hood. My usual spray technique. I'm not going to go into that because, well, we've killed that on other videos I've done, but you can see the results here. It turned out pretty darn good. It flashed off. I was able to give it kind of a polishing, sanding within an hour or so, and a couple more coats. And here's the body. And I think it turned out pretty good. The color, it's a little bit bluer than I really wanted, but you know what? This is going to work. I think this is going to make a good representation of my 68 Cougar the way it was in its last form, if you will, its last paint job that it had. So we appreciate you watching this, and we are going to continue on this build in part 2.